Hey everybody, Justin here from the Bill Corps Wellness Center, coming at you with your first video of our MAD workshop series. And what MAD stands for is mobility, activation, and getting dynamic with our bodies. And the reason this is so important is because you can use this to really get yourself ready for a workout, so it acts as a great warm-up, but you can also use these as the workout itself, or you can take bits and pieces of it and intersperse it with the exercises that you're doing in your actual workout to really make sure that we are kind of undoing a lot of the things that are going to lead us into pain if we don't try to mitigate those. And what I mean by that is when we start with mobilization, which is why that's first in the letters M, A, and D for MAD, is that we've got typical tissues that when we spend a lot of time sitting, or we even spend a lot of time reaching overhead, we get certain things that are going to stay pretty tight and going to lead to other muscles on the opposite sides of those joints being underactive or weak. Then that's going to affect our ability to move. And so, having given you that kind of long-winded explanation, I want to provide you with a routine that you can do right now, following along with me, and kind of show you what MAD is all about. So for the mobility portion, we're going to start with two typically tight areas that are caused by a lot of sitting. And whether you're doing sitting because you're working a desk job, or you're doing a lot of sitting because you're so active in your day job that when you come home, all you're doing is spending time seated. Either way, this is going to be a great routine for you, and we're going to start by rolling our glutes. So typically when we spend a lot of time seated, our piriformis muscle, which is one of our external rotators of the hip, gets tight. So what you're going to do is use a foam roller. You're going to come down to a seated position, and then you're going to cross the leg over, and we're going to roll, we're going to lean towards the side that we crossed over. You're going to feel that pulls the muscle out and brings it to the surface, and then we're just going to slowly roll back and forth here, kind of a small range of motion to help release that piriformis and that glute muscle for about 30 seconds. And now that I've got that side, I'll switch to the other side and give you this angle. So I'm crossing over, and then I'm leaning, and then I'm just rolling nice and slow here, back and forth. And if I find any sort of area that feels really, really tight, or it's kind of screaming at me a little more than others, then I'm going to stay on that, and I'm just going to roll back and forth in a smaller kind of space there. And then once I've got that done, so that's our first mobility exercise, we're going to move to something to stretch out the hip flexors and the quads, which again, hip flexors get really tight from a lot of times seated, and so we're going to do a couch stretch. And so for the couch stretch, start kind of kneeling here, and then use a box, bench, couch as the name suggests. Anything that's going to be able to get right up into the crook of your ankle. And then what I want to do is I want to get my knee as close to whatever that surface is as I can, whether it's the top side of the bench, even with the bench, or with the couch, or with, in this instance, the box. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze this glute of this side that's up, keep my belly tight, so abs are nice and tight. And then here I'm already feeling a stretch through the front of the hip. Now if I want to progress this a little bit, I can take the foot up into this position here, but I don't want you to progress this to this position, or even more progression to here if I can't keep my glute tight. And then we're just holding here for about a minute on each side. So now that I've got a minute on that side, we'll switch to the other side. So full kneeling, getting that in there, squeezing the glute, belly stays tight. I'm progressing up to this portion because this is where I'm feeling the most stretch through the quad or the front of the leg and the hip. And then I'm just breathing. And now that we've got about a minute on each leg, I'm going to come out of that, and now we're moving to the A portion. So this is the activation portion. We need to wake up these underactive muscles, and we're going to do that and start with our core or abdominals. This is something that is obviously typically weak on a lot of people because they're not working on it. So we want to wake these up before we start doing anything in our actual workout for them. So we're gonna do what's called a dead bug. You're gonna start laying, knees are up at 90 degrees. Here, arms are up towards the ceiling. I want to push my low back into the floor, so that doesn't mean I'm just bringing my neck up, but I am gonna elevate my shoulders just a little bit. And then we're just gonna go legs only today. So toe is pulled to nose. I'm gonna extend, keep my low back pushed into the floor, hold for a second or two, and alternate on each side. Once I get 10 of these, 5 on each side, which we're almost there, that'll be our activation piece for our abdominals or our core. And then we're gonna move to a glute activation. So this is our second activation exercise. We're gonna go monster walks. So you're gonna loop a resistance band just above the knees. And we're gonna wake up those glutes, so toes are pointed forwards, hips are back, chest is up. We're gonna go 10 steps to the right, 10 steps to the left. So these are our lateral walks. And then we're gonna move to what's called a monster walk. So we're going up and out as we walk forward and backwards. Really important that we're doing these activation exercises to wake up those muscles that are typically weak and underactive, as I spoke about earlier. And then the last activation exercise, let me give you the side view here. The child's pose, arms are reached forward, and we want to wake up lower trap muscles. So that's going to be the almost like the lower back muscles. You're going to reach, you're going to roll open, pack, so that means shoulder blade down and back, and then we're going to lift. We're going 4 on each side here. So reach, roll, pack, and lift. Same thing, running through until we get 3 to 4 on each side. Really just trying to wake up those tiny muscles that control what we're doing with our scapula. Now that we've got all 3 of our activation exercises done, we're going to get dynamic. And what getting dynamic is we are going to take our body through cohesive movements instead of just exercises that focus on one muscle group. So for this one, since I'm trying to kind of work and give you something that's going to get you ready for what you're going to do in your workout, which is going to be some sort of squatting pattern in this instance, we want to try to get ourselves into a position of a deep squat. So we're going to get as deep as we can, and then we're going to do what's just called a frog. So we're going to make fists with our hands, and then I'm going to shift my weight onto my hands and then pull my legs through. Then I'll turn around, and I'm aiming just for 10 of these. And what this is doing is it's drilling this deep squat pattern where my hips are lower than my knees, which is often a position that most people are not spending enough time in. So once I've got about 10 of these, I'll do 3 more here, I'm feeling pretty darn ready to get into my workout. And so that is kind of the gist of doing a MAD routine and how it can help you to get yourself ready for a workout, but also get yourself out of a lot of positions that are going to cause you pain, like staying seated a lot, hunched over shoulders, and reaching overhead, doing a repetitive task. So I hope you enjoyed that. Stay tuned for our 2 other installations of this series, where we're going to give you 2 more routines that can be used for different workouts that you may be doing.